afternoon. I have the special privilege of introducing our speaker today. Terry McAuliffe was inaugurated as the 72nd governor of Virginia on January 11th. He is a businessman, entrepreneur, and father who lived in Fairfax County for more than 20 years. When he was 14, he started a paving business, paving driveways for neighbors and local businesses. Since then, he has worked with and led numerous businesses in diverse sectors of the economy. Governor McAuliffe and his wife Dorothy were married in 1988. They have 5 children. He has certainly held his hand out to local governments, convening a transition policy council before he took office to identify issues of most importance to counties, cities, and towns. Governor McAuliffe, we are honored that you are here speaking to us today. Thank you. Please welcome Governor.
BML, VACO, District Planning Commissions, all of you give yourselves a great round of applause. We are going to have a true partnership over the course of the next 4 years. And I want to first of all thank Harrison for that great introduction. I hear 5 children as well, so give him a great round of applause. He's a father for 5 children. I got 3 in college right now, so one's in the Naval Academy, so I'm not paying for him, but the other 2. So I get it. I have to keep working for a little bit longer. It's an honor for me to be with everybody here today. I thank you for this opportunity. I know some I will see tonight. We're off. We're working hard. Been in office now about 3 weeks. I've done what I said I would do right off the bat. I signed my first executive orders. Executive order number 1, within minutes of being inaugurated, no discrimination in the state workforce based on sexual orientation. We signed that executive order. Number 2, I signed immediately thereafter a $100 gift ban on myself, my family, and every member of my administration. We need full transparency in government, and it's important for what we need to do going forward. I tell the story. I learned a true lesson this weekend. I was at an event, and a gentleman gave me a little nameplate, and then he gave a little box for my wife, and I said, "Sir, is this under $100? He said, "Yes, it is." I said, "Great." I got home, gave it to my wife, opened it up, and said, "Neiman Marcus," which tipped me off. So actually had my wife go to Neiman Marcus, and sure enough, $420.19. So I wrote back to the gentleman, "Thank you for the scarf, and here's a check for $320.19 to keep me within the $100. So I now have a scarf I didn't want, but you know what? It is what it is. So please, any gifts under $100, I appreciate it. But what I've tried to do, and then also, as you know, during the campaign I talked a lot about tolls, and I support tolls, I support public-private partnerships, but they got to make sense for our communities. And we had a toll. The Elizabeth River Crossing partnership was not a partnership I would ever sign as governor. I don't think it was negotiated well, but I do have to honor the contracts that have been negotiated. And it really impacted the folks in Portsmouth. So within the first week, we've lowered those tolls by $85 million. I promised I would do it, and I did it. And as you probably saw today in the paper, we're talking about getting rid of the maintenance fee on our easy passes. So I'm trying to do everything that I can to make it easier for folks to travel around, and we continue to work hard. I spend most of my day, well over half of my day on the phone, calling around the globe and around the country, talking about economic development and job creation. I believe I was elected on the basis that we need to diversify and grow our economy. That's what folks are expecting of their government, to help you at the local level create new economic activities, because we know we're going to face a challenging economy. In Virginia, we are the #1 recipient of DOD dollars. You probably saw some alarming news last week when DOD announced that they may deactivate the George Washington aircraft carrier. If that were to occur, that would be tens of thousands of jobs in the Commonwealth of Virginia. It's not only the carrier, but it's the entire ships that accompany the carrier. It's our fixed wing base in Oceana that we would lose a squadron. They also announced the other day that they want to cut $1 billion out of the commissary budget. They have a dramatic impact on the Virginia economy. So I'm working hard. I'm driving everybody in Washington crazy. I'm on the phone every single day. You can't do this and so forth. But at the same time, I'm trying to figure out how do we grow and how do we diversify, how do we become leaders in cybersecurity and genome sequencing, nanotechnology, all these jobs of the 21st century. I'm proud that we've already announced several. I don't know if anyone here is from Norfolk, but after an 18-month hiatus, through the work of a lot of us working together, Carnival Cruise Lines is coming back to Norfolk. Along with it, a lot of jobs that will be there. In Northern Virginia, the T-Mobile Corporation Cybersecurity just announced immediately a $5 million investment and $25 million over the next 5 years, 150 new jobs there in cybersecurity, which is so important in Northern Virginia. Northern Virginians, give that a round of applause. We have some Northern Virginians here. On Tuesday, I was in the Eastern Shore, Cape Charles, where I announced that Bayshore would 100 and almost 50 new jobs at Bayshore Concrete. They're building all the precast. This is a company that almost went out of business last year, and now they're going to be doubling. The Tappan Zee Bridge, they got 2 bridges in New York and 1 in New Jersey, all the big precasts. So that was a big announcement. And last Friday, I was in Martinsville, Virginia, where a UK company decided of all the places they were looking, North Carolina, South Carolina, they decided they were coming to Martinsville and we're going to have 150 new jobs there with an aerospace manufacturing company. So, we're going to keep going, we're just warming up. I'm just getting excited. Then again, I'm always excited. But folks, we got a lot of great work to get done, and I'm trying to work in a, what I call common ground. Let's get all of us come together. People are sick and tired of the partisan bickering, of folks not coming together and working in bipartisan ways. I told everybody I will work around the clock, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you're willing to come meet with me and work on things to grow and diversify our economy, I did what I promised I would do. As soon as I was elected, I reached out to every single Republican in the General Assembly. I called them, I met with them. I think it's important, and I start out every conversation, where is it we can agree on? And there's a lot of places that we can agree on, but we got to get a lot of work done, obviously, with the headwinds we're facing with the economy. A couple things I really want to see done in this General Assembly. All of you in this room have heard me talk about this. We have to reform the standards of learning. They do not work in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and they're like reform. Our children today are taking all of these tests. You've got 33 tests between grades 3 and 11, and then you've got pre-tests to get you ready to take the tests. And no matter where I traveled on the campaign trail, there was a teacher invariably came up and said to me, you know, Terry, I left teaching because I was teaching to a test. We need our children thinking cognitively, we need them thinking creatively. Maybe it's a short essay earlier in the year, but this high-stakes multiple-choice test isn't preparing a 21st century workforce. And along the way, before we get to the point of SOLs, let's work together so that every child in Virginia has access to pre-K education. If you look at every study out there today, 80% of the brain is developed between the age of birth and 3 years old. So let's not be picking winners and losers at birth. You shouldn't be able to get a pre-K early childhood education because of your zip code or because of your parents' financial condition. And this can't be a sole state responsibility. We need to work with the local communities, with the faith-based organizations, with the private sector. Let's do it together. But you start that child early, and then you reform the SOLs. And we got to make sure in higher education that every child can afford it. We need more financial aid so that every child in the Commonwealth of Virginia who wants to go to college can actually go to college. And let's invest in our community colleges. I think all of you know that I am the only governor to ever visit all 23 community colleges. I did it in the campaign trail. I love our community colleges. They are real jewels of economic development. But we've cut their funding. Used to be $4,400 a year per student. Now we're down to about $3,000 per student in the last 5 years. These are your engines for workforce development. So I want to work with the General Assembly to make sure that we have adequate funding to do what we need to do at the community college level. In my State of the Commonwealth, I announced several things I wanted to do immediately. We've got to look at the budget. We've got to look at the economy to see where we're going, and I'll have some news in the next week on the state of the economy and what our receipts are looking like. But I have some options available to me. We sold some assets, and I was able to do some investment in Northern Virginia. It's important because of our support staff up there, and they have to compete against the private sector. So I put about $5.4 million in Northern Virginia for cost to compete, to help support. So that's direct money I gave to the Northern Virginia schools, but you can't forget about our other communities, or rural communities. And we've seen declines in population and change in formulas. So I added about $4.6 million to make sure we can do what we have to do in our rural communities to make sure that we continually are competitive, and I want to continue to do that. I've added $15 million to our fund, our literary fund, for low-cost loans if you want to build a new school. I think it's important. Let's get rid of these old, antiquated schools, and let's build some new, state-of-the-art schools for our students. Now, I want to continue to work on new business activity for all of you in this room. You've all heard me talk about the issues that we have. I talked a lot about taxes, and it's critical our local governments have the adequate and stable resources and revenue that you need in order to do the jobs that you are all doing on a daily basis. As you know, I have been critical of some of the taxes that we have, particularly some anti-growth taxes like the business professional occupation licensing tax and the merchant's capital tax and the machinery and tool tax. But what I've always said, if we can give you more tools from the state, because today, this is for many of you, your source of revenue, and I would never do anything to impact that. But of course, over the next year or two, if we can work together and we can give you more tools to have a better tax structure so that you can grow your economy at the local level, well then let's look at it. Let's have a discussion about that, but let's do it with all the stakeholders around the table. Do this, let's start out on a voluntary basis, see what we need to do, because I want to make sure that you have all the resources that you need, obviously, to provide for all of the constituents in your respective areas. One place that we can get a lot of money, and this is very important, and I need all of your help in this room. We have a big issue, and unfortunately it's become a political football, which is very unfortunate, because it shouldn't be. It's the right thing to do for Virginia. We need to work together. We need to close the coverage gap in Virginia. We need to bring our federal tax dollars back to Virginia and provide health care for up to 400,000 Virginians who are entitled to this money. Now let's talk about this for a second from a business perspective. Of course, morally and socially it's the right thing to do. As Harrison talks about, I've been in business my whole life. I come in from a business background. Wherever you may be on the health care bill, folks, it's now the law of the land. The United States Supreme Court has made that decision. And as of January 1st, each and every person in this room is now paying taxes into the federal government to provide health care for these new potential Medicaid expansion recipients. Today, 26 states have agreed to accept that money. So as governor, when I sit in my office and I'm calling around the globe to bring businesses here, 26 states are getting their health care provided for them in part by Virginia taxpayers. So that makes no economic sense to me at all. Over the next 3 years, we will bring about $6.2 billion back running through the Virginia economy. We will create up to 30,000 new jobs. And a report came out the other day that was ordered by the Merck Commission, it wasn't ordered by me, to do an analysis of financially how this would affect Virginia. And of course, you don't ever want to get into a federal program that could really cause you problems on the back end. And I've always said, the reforms we're doing, we've got to keep the reforms going, we've got to deliver our health care efficiently and cost effectively. But this report came out the other day, done by Price Waterhouse, ordered by the Merck Commission, and that report said that between now and 2022, that Virginia will save, after providing this coverage, will save over $1 billion from our general fund. That is $1 billion, folks, that we can use to invest in education and to do the things that we need to do. This is a very important issue. And I want to be crystal clear. If we do not take this money, hospitals will close in Virginia. I don't know if is anybody here from Lee County? The gentleman in the back. Lee County just closed Lee County Regional Hospital. Was the largest employer in Lee County. Gone. Now as governor, I want to help folks in Lee County. Far southwest, they need help. But how can you possibly bring a new business to a county that no longer has a hospital? It's going to be very hard to do. If your employees can't get in a car and go to a hospital, we've really adversely impacted Lee County. And I want everybody to know this is going to happen all over the Commonwealth, specifically those areas in the rural communities. Right here, right across the street from us at VCU Hospital, VCU and UVA are our two teaching hospitals. They will forfeit $385 million. That's our money, which is now going to go to other states. Very conservative governors have accepted it. Arizona, Michigan, Utah, last week decided to take that money. Why would it allow our billions of dollars to go to other states? Just doesn't make business sense. But everybody in this room should be engaged in this debate. Who is here from Roanoke? There you go. One of their largest employers is Carilion Hospital. The CEO came to see me the other day, Nancy Agee. She said, I don't know what our future will be if I don't get this money. That is 12,000 jobs in Roanoke, Virginia, folks. This is a big issue, and this will impact everybody. So we need to come together, common ground, sit in a room, do this the Virginia way, keep all the other stuff away from it. How do we bring back our money, our taxpayer money, back into Virginia and provide health care for all of these citizens so that we have a healthy workforce, a workforce the next 20, 25 years, creating up to 30,000 new jobs. So these are very important issues that we're dealing with right now in the General Assembly. And I thank you for all of your help in this. We are all going to get some great things done over the next 4 years. And Harrison, if you let me, I'll be glad to take a couple questions if you guys want me to stay for questions. Do you want me to stay for a couple questions? All right, let's have a round of applause. I'm done with the speaking.
Mr. Governor. Mr. Governor, I'm from Augusta County. Thank you very much for coming today. My question is on the Medicaid expansion. I do work in the healthcare field. I manage an assisted living facility. My question is, with the expansion of Medicaid, we've seen different numbers about how many people we could put into that system. What is the plan to increase what's paid to the doctors so that they will be incentivized to see Medicaid patients? Because currently, that is one of the biggest things facing our Medicaid patients, is that doctors are not able to make their bottom line work if they increase the share that they see of Medicaid patients.
Yep,
What's your plan?
And this is all part of the process that we're putting together today. The analysis shows that they believe that about 69% of the eligible 400,000 would actually sign up and go into the plan. And I think there's a valid question, well, how come the numbers just changed? And I remind you, the woman from Price Waterhouse who did the accounting report, and she made clear to the Merck Commission the other day, she said, I've been doing your books for 17 years in the Commonwealth of Virginia, I haven't been wrong yet. So the report that came out is actually someone who does all of our books. The reason why this shift, and we're going to actually save money, it's not going to cost us money, is that the folks, we now have 26 states with actual data. Before, it was an analysis, no one had signed up. Now we now know because they're signing up in all these states. The folks who are signing up today are healthier. Now when you talk about Medicaid, a lot of people get confused, they think the poor here. This category is referred to as the working poor. There's somebody, at least one person working in that family, and in many of these situations, there's two folks working. They're healthier, they're working every day, and that's changed the numbers. But part of our negotiations is to get some waivers, which obviously we need to do up at the federal level, which I am all about doing. My goal is to use this money to make it more cost-effective, more efficient, and incentivize doctors and others to provide that care. That's all part of this puzzle, I call it, that we need to put together. But you're exactly right. Getting new folks in, if you don't have the providers, doesn't do us any good. We have to incentivize them, and that is part of what I want to sit down and negotiate. But when you've got billions of dollars now to sit and negotiate with, that's a very strong position to be in. But you're right, and that's obviously one of the key concerns. But when we structure this new formula and we'll get it done with the expansion, it will be incentivizing for people to provide the health care. But it's a great question. It's obviously part of the negotiations that we're going through. Thank you.
Congratulations, and thank you for being here today.
You bet.
I'm from Alawite County, and 460, the new Commonwealth Connector, is very near and dear to our heart, and I'm not only in Alawite County for our economic growth and for our safety. I was very glad to hear you say that you want to honor contracts. So does that mean that we're going to honor the contract with the US 460 mobility partners and move ahead on 460.
Here's the issue on 460. And one thing, right after I was elected, I came down and I spent hours and hours with VDOT going through every single project that we have. We now have some transportation funding. My top priority is to preserve taxpayer dollars to make sure we're spending that money. I've said the expenditure of transportation money, number one, should ease congestion. Number two, should have an economic development component to it. Number three, there should be some local input to it. I understand the concept of opening up the port and what 460 will do. My concern with 460 is we approved and have spent tens of millions of dollars on a project. The middle piece has yet to be permitted by the Army Corps of Engineers. As a business person, I do not believe we should ever spend money until we have the permitting done, because you don't know. I can't sit here and tell you today, and the Army Corps will not confirm to me that they will permit that middle piece. And if we don't have that permit, we have wasted millions of dollars of taxpayer money. So you want me as governor to make sure that we are making sure before I spend a dime that that whole road will be permitted. But the problem with 460, I'm not saying I'm not going to support it. We have the middle piece that the Army Corps of Engineers is not permitted, and some say that they won't permit it. I will be very angry if we have spent tens of millions of dollars of our taxpayer dollars on a road we can't complete. That's how I feel about 460. The question, though, I think fair is fair, and I mean, I think we have time for one more. If we have got time for one more, Johnson?
We gotta get going.
One more. Thank you, though. All right. If we don't have one more, so we got one. Okay. Yes, sir.
First of all, thank you for, as a resident of Southwestern Virginia, thank you for your support of expansion of Medicaid. You're right on target with that.
Thank you.
But on another matter, in Southwestern Virginia, we've been very pleased to see the plans to move passenger rail service from Lynchburg to Roanoke.
I'm a big rail man, I want you to know. I love rail.
Very good, sir. I'm pleased to hear that, because the next step of it is to take it all the way to Bristol, Virginia, where it can in turn be connected on the Tennessee side to Chattanooga. What is your administration doing to make that a reality for us in the part of Virginia where the state begins?
Yeah, and I love rail, and I'm for support of getting as much rail as we possibly can. Now, in fairness, my rail commissioner I just appointed a couple of days ago, so I'd like her to get actually in her office and get going, which I think is fairness. But listen, I'm a huge supporter of rail, and the more we can open up different communities and do what we need to do, I'm fully supportive of it. I'm already working at the federal side to see if we can get some more federal money as it relates to rail. But opening up our communities, and specifically our rural communities, I am a huge advocate of that. And I've said, and I talk in the campaign all the time, I am all for rail. We need to open up these communities, and I will be your biggest advocate. You should give her a couple of days to get in the job, but we'll sit down and listen. I want to work hard and help Southside and Southwest Virginia. They have taken a beating. Let it be furniture and textile and tobacco. I understand, and that's why I was there last Friday in Martinsville to make my announcement. It's important that the governor go and show we are here at the Patriot new facility there to have the second project go in there, and a UK company to go in there really helps us with some of the other aerospace business. I am all in. I'm going to be doing an economic summit soon down in Southside and Southwest to bring all my team down to do what we need to do. And I know people always talk about it. I want to get it done. Great communities, but you've been hit hard. We got to work hard on education. You look at the rural horseshoe, as you know, from Eastern Shore down to South Side, Southwest, and up through the valley. On the rural horseshoe today, 25% of the students aren't getting out of high school. And if the rural horseshoe were its own state, it's 2 million people, it's a quarter of our population. We'd rank 50th out of 50 on bachelor's degrees, tied with Arkansas. Now I know then that we have got to fix that education. Because if you're going to get someone convinced to come and build a multi-million-dollar advanced manufacturing facility, they got to know that they're going to have a workforce for 10, 20, 30 years. They're looking at those same education numbers that I'm looking at. So let's fix that. That's why pre-K, we just can't have pre-K in the wealthier parts of the state. We've got to offer it in Southwest Virginia. But what helps us really unlock this is $1 billion that we can save and provide health care. And in the rural communities, you will be hit the hardest by not taking this expansion money, because hospitals will close. Just talk to that gentleman in the back of the room. More hospitals will close. You can't bring new businesses in, but we also free up $1 billion to help do what we need to do. We need to do this together. This is not a Democrat or Republican issue. It's a jobs issue. Growing, diversifying our economy. That is why I'm imploring you to help me get this done. We have huge issues on mental illness. We know that. Our community service boards are not working the way they should be working. There's hundreds of millions of dollars in this expansion money that we can use towards mental illness. You know, we have big challenges, but with big challenges come great opportunities. I'm ready to tackle them all. But we have to do it together. The Virginia way, finding common ground, moving together as one. As governor, I get out of bed every single day competing against 49 other states and 200 nations around the world. I get out of bed wanting to beat every one of them. And so do you. Let's do it together. Thank you very much.